First responders, my hats are off to them. They run into places of danger while everybody else is running away. Of course, I'm talking about police, firemen, and medics, particularly these three. Today's story is going to be about a fireman who unfortunately died in the line of duty, but he was a hero, a very well thought of gentleman, and that's what today's story is going to be about. By the way, I don't know if you can see it or not, Fat Puppy, I'm a traveling man. Subscribe to the station, to my channel, like it, get that thumbs up, ring the bell and you'll get notifications. Let's go for a ride. It's a hot Sunday morning in South Carolina, but you know what? Them 70-mile-per-hour winds I get on that motorcycle makes it much better. Anyway, to get on with the story here, this is a fairly impressive monument to a fireman who lost his life doing what firemen do every day, running into danger and just taking risks with their lives to help other people, to save them, basically. I'm at the corner of North Main and Warren Street here in Sumter, South Carolina. Now, this monument hasn't always been here, and I'm not sure the story of why it ended up here. This is a fairly busy intersection, so you're going to see a little bit of traffic coming and going. And I'm not going to tell the whole story right here just because I don't like people gawking at me and wondering what I'm doing and all that stuff. But I am going to move it in closer and just read off of it before I get into the story. So basically what I'm going to do is just read what the monument says over on this side here and give just a slight bit of history. The one thing I do want to say is I don't know when this monument was made. It has no date when it was erected, and like I said, it was moved from its original location, which I'm going to go to. You'll see in this video, but I'm just going to read it to you real quick. It says, in memory of Will S. Graham, September 23rd, 1872 to February 23rd, 1907. On the flip side here, it says erected by the citizens of Sumter and by the Delgar Reel Squad. Now that was a volunteer fire squad, of which for 14 years he was a foreman. Now, if I remember correctly, he died at about the age of 34 or 35. So he had been a foreman of this squad since he was about 20 years old. So he was a very impressive young man. This was a volunteer squad. He had taken them, they would have contests, because back then they were pulled by horses. They would have horse racing with the horses, with pulling their equipment and like fire drills, and he won championships all across the state of South Carolina. There are multiple newspaper accounts of that fire squad doing just great, marvelous things. Keep in mind, this was a volunteer fire squad. I also read of one huge fire that got started in downtown. It burnt down 19 buildings. I think that was 1901, and it was started in Epperson's Horse and Mule Shed, and it spread from there and burnt down 19 buildings, of which Delgar Squad was one of them that finally brought that fire under control. Now originally this was on South Harvin Street, which is where I'm going to go to next, which is where the event took place, and it was moved to here. Now you'll see when I get there, but I believe the reason why it was moved was because they had either rerouted a street or they had brought railroad tracks through. I'm not quite sure why it was moved. It was many, many years ago, and I have read the story, but it's been so long since I've read it. I don't remember it, and I tried to find it the past couple days, and I just couldn't find it. Buried in the cemetery is Mr. Will Graham. He was the grandson of Noah Graham. Noah Graham came from North Carolina and was pastor of Bethel Baptist Church which in the local area people know who that is or where that is. I know that some of you might not know. He was the pastor of Wedgefield Baptist Church, and then he became pastor of First Baptist Church in Sumter, which I think at the time was just named Sumter Baptist Church. And that's downtown on Liberty Street. It's an impressive church, an impressive building. Now, in 1907, which is when Mr. Graham died, I don't know what it was. But that was his grandfather, who obviously had died years before. Mr. Graham was the son of Lieutenant Colonel James Dupree Graham, who was a Confederate soldier. Don't know a lot about him neither, because this is not about him. This is about Mr. Graham. His mother was Georgiana Sanders Graham. That was his mother. So that's a little brief history of Mr. Graham before I get into the details of how he died going to danger rather than running from danger. Imagine, if you will, it's 1907, it's February, and it's very cold. This area here is an industrial area now with railroad tracks right behind me. But at one time, in this area, stood the Mannheim Cafe and European Hotel. It was a big building with a stone facade. Later on, the Beck brothers bought this building and it became their store, but Mannheim was allowed to keep his cafe. What they did with the building is part of it was a dry goods store, that would be the Beck brothers. Part of it was a grocery and bicycle store, and then there was the Mannheim Grill Cafe, actually. At 2:15 in the morning, February 22nd, the alarm gets sounded. There's a fire. It started in the kitchen of Mannheim's Cafe. Now this building, as I said, had the businesses, but also upstairs it was more like apartments or maybe even a hotel still. People could still, bed there. So the alarm goes off. Delgar Fire Squad is one of the squads called. Meanwhile, everybody's trying to get out. Mr. Mannheim himself, in his nightgown basically, manages to escape and then go back in and try to save others. My understanding is he was successful. At some point, they're running a ladder up the stone facade. And it's windy, and I hope it's not messing up the sound on this. But anyway, they run the ladder up the facade. Mr. Will Graham is climbing up the ladder when the facade falls down onto the street below. Now, of course, it wasn't paved. It was cobblestone. It fell down onto the street below. It crushed him. Didn't kill him right away, but it crushed him. Another gentleman by the name of Mr. Warren, another firefighter, his ankle got crushed. They couldn't save it. They had to amputate his leg beneath the knee. The location where the monument is now located is on Warren Street in North Main. I'm sure it was named after him. Another gentleman was very lucky, blessed, charmed, whatever word you want to use. When the building fell over, he was straight in line, but a window fell over him. He got cut and bruised up from breaking the glass of that window. I'm sure that he was very thankful every day of his life over that, because he got no real injuries. So the alarm goes off, the building falls, the front falls. Mr. Will Graham, they carry him to the Mood, see if I can find it on my paperwork, if not I'll wing it. It was the Mood Osteen Infirmary, which later hooked up with the Sumter Hospital and became Toomey Hospital, which everyone around here knows of. He was carried there. He passed away the next morning at about 8 o'clock in the morning. They say that every time the first bell would ring, when they would call out the firefighters, that he would physically react to it even though he was unconscious, and he stayed unconscious until he passed away. Now his injuries, I'm going to list his injuries, were had symptoms of brain injury, several scalp wounds, compound leg fracture at the knee and just above the ankle, 2 broken fingers, broken upper jaw, and severe bruises on his face. He took a severe hit to the head is what happened basically, and that's basically, I bet he had, I don't know if they were able to know back then, but I'm sure he had bleeding on the brain, and that's probably what killed him. He was 34 years old when he passed away. He actually passed away on his dad's birthday, who had passed away a few years earlier. Mr. Robert M. Warren, by the way, was the gentleman who had his foot crushed, and T.P. Lynham was another one that I forgot to mention. All he got was a sprained ankle. Thankfully, he was okay. And the businesses that were contained in the building were the Beck Brothers Dry Goods, the H.L. Tisdale Grocer and Bicycle, and Mannheim's Cafe. Mannheim's by name, his name was Adolf Mannheim. I didn't dig deep enough to find out. I'm sure that if he was not a German immigrant, his parents probably were. But so this is the story of the monument. It's over a few blocks that way on North Main and Warren. Now, it used to be here. I'm sure, I mean, it was either on the sidewalk or maybe even in the middle of the street. Keep in mind that back then, they didn't have cars speeding up down the street. So, but then I believe the story goes that when they put these tracks here, that they then moved the monument. The newspaper listed the business losses and the building loss, and every person that was insured, every business that was insured, was only insured for about half of the damage. So they suffered greatly. They were not able to open their businesses up. Beck Brothers said they would, but a year later I seen where they went into bankruptcy. So I'm sure they didn't open their business up. And I don't know what happened to them after that. But anyway, it's a hot day. It's a hot morning. And hopefully I can get more of these videos out to you whenever time makes itself available. And y'all have a good day. Don't forget to subscribe to Fat Puppy. And again, have a good one.